Like I had a lot of people just visiting me in my head now, like from my past experience, and all of this just came back, swimming back to me right now, and that's just interesting. But this also, of course, like leads to the solution space that you have like on your own, right? That's very much based also on your own experiences of the past. Yeah.
Welcome to Data Breakthroughs, the podcast where every episode starts with a mystery. My guest and I walk in blind. No clue what the problem is, no idea about the industry, and definitely not here to spend an hour debating tech stack. Instead, we unwrap a real problem from a real person, figure out what's actually going on, vanish for 15 minutes to think on our own, and then return to see if we can crack it live. It is part detective story, part improv challenge, and part let's see what breaks. No scripts, no preps, just curiosity, creativity, and a dash of chaos. Today, my partner in problem solving is the wonderful
Christian. I'm so happy to have you here today. How's it going?
Yes, I'm also very excited to be here, and thanks for the invite, Lior. Great to see you.
I'm happy to have a great person to come and join me today to solve a problem. We don't know yet what is the problem, but before we jumped into it, maybe you would like to introduce yourself.
Yes, sure. So I'm Christian. I'm in the data analytics space now for over 7 years. Started also as a data analyst and then moved into a leadership position. And basically what I love to do is help organizations to make better decisions and help them overcome like the bottlenecks that they face there. And they are, as you also know, like multiple things that can become a bottleneck. And I'm just love to find out like what is like holding an organization back and then helping them to overcome this.
Maybe we can get to know you a little bit with some icebreaker questions. And I have a first question for you. Would you rather debug code for a day or sit through a day of misaligned charts and try to sort them out?
That's a good question. Definitely when I started, I would have been like the debugging the code. But now I feel like going through the charts is like more also in my space where I love also to bring myself in.
If data, bad data, were food, what would it taste like?
Oh, this is a super good question. So for me, I only can come up with some super burnt meat. I don't know, like that you cannot chew anymore. Like where every life is also now sucked out of it, and everything that was also done is like everything is in vain. It's just a disaster. Yeah, this is what I came up with now.
Well done steak.
Too much done steak. That's right.
And the last question that we have for today is, which is harder, cleaning data or cleaning your house? And you have kids at home, so...
Yeah, I mean, this is a good one. Essentially, yes, I have 2 kids at home. I actually cleaning the house like multiple times a day. But I can also tell you, getting like in my experience, like also cleaning data and going very deep into the source and finding out like the root cause, it can also be mind blowing. And like sometimes also, I think like I understand why my kids are leaving things like this, that I can get this, but sometimes I did not get like why certain data is introduced into databases and our data structure is the way it was. Yeah. So I think cleaning data is sometimes more mysterious. That's what I would say.
Very nice. Before we continue, I want to share the board also with our audience. So if you're watching video, you can see it together with us and learn firsthand what is the problem we're going to solve. I don't know what is the problem. Christian, do you know what is the problem? Can you guess? Can you think?
I would assume it has something to do with decision making and how we can maybe make better decisions. But let's see.
And is it from you?
Nice.
Christian wrote us.
I have this tools.
Christian wrote us, our self-service BI tool has over 300 dashboards and reports, but I can't tell which ones are official, current, or trustworthy. My team is paralyzed by choice and wasting hours hunting for reliable information, sometimes ending creating another dashboard. Oh, it's connected very much to our icebreaker, I think. We are 75 people company. Decision-making has slowed us slow to crawl because we can't trust a single source. And my team is losing confidence in our entire BI investment while reverting to manual spreadsheets.
Yeah, been there.
That's already a good start. Been there, we can start solving it. Let's talk a little bit more about the problem. What is the situation? When we started the studio, so it's a studio, creative studio, maybe gaming studio. Did they write it somewhere around here? No.
I didn't see, but
they started it 2 years ago. We had controlled BI environment where my team created and managed about 15 dashboards. Sounds solid. Everyone knew which reports to use for different decisions. The company grew and the need needs changed. Then we rolled out self-service capabilities, empowering anyone to create and publish their own dashboards and analyses. I've been there. I saw it happening firsthand. Last week, I needed our standard monthly sales performance reports for the board meeting. I found 37 different dashboards with similar names created by different people over the past 6 months. I spent 3 hours trying to figure out which one was correct. And when I finally picked one, a colleague questioned the numbers because they were using different version. At the tension, my team is afraid to use any dashboard because they might be wrong, but creating new ones just adds to the chaos. We are spending more time debating which report to trust when actual analyzing the data and making decisions. There are no boundaries defined here, which is interesting. And then the tech stack that they added in their ticket is Tableau with self-service publishing enabled. Okay, PostgreSQL and Excel. So it seems to be very basic infrastructure that we're dealing in here.
That's right. Also does seem like when things were kind of curated and governed, everything worked out quite smoothly, and then it got out of hand.
It seems like this. And, you know, in the history, what I saw here, what happened usually is that you're starting with some Python or Excel sheets that somebody is producing. So they're very standardized and very controlled. Still coming with version 3, final version 5, and so on, but it's still stabilized. And then when you move into Tableau, basically anybody can build a dashboard. And then if there is no control on who deploys it and who save it, they're just releasing it. So we need now to create a clarity statement to understand basically what we are solving, what is our scope, what are we not touching, and what assumptions we need to make to be able to solve it.
Nice. Yes, let us start.
When it talks about the problem, he mentioned the 300 dashboards. I think this is an important information because it means that they created too many of them. They have similar dashboard with the same names, right? So this is also something that we can see here from the information. And that most of these dashboards were created in a very short term.
Probably also for one-time use or something, and then probably published and never understood like how other people might be using it. Yes. Paralyzed by choice is awesome that I read. Trustworthiness, right? So what numbers to trust?
What is the problem we want to try to solve today? I will go with creating some official reporting process. So they don't have today any official way to do it. And there's actually maybe the main problem we need to solve. So once we do that.
Yes, it's a process or maybe also governance, but this might be too much already. So I think because I would also like to think like a good process, or governance is followed by a good process, if it's clear and transparent.
The problem, I think, that if we say governance in a small company, it's also going to scare them a bit because it always sounds like a very massive thing that needs to happen. So it's more about maybe the process of streaming down the KPIs that they are using or the data sets. Because as I see it from problem perspective, there is 3 areas here, right? There is the raw data that everybody apparently can access. And then there is the Tableau that they can build with it, whatever dashboard they want. And then the third part is they just leave it out there without clear understanding of why it was created, who was creating it. It's a process problem. It's a governance problem.
It would be interesting to understand also, of course, like what capabilities they have like in the company itself, right? Is it like, did they have just some analysts who are like accessing like the raw data and bringing them to the dashboards, or do we have like some data architecture team, like, some data lakehouse or whatever in place?
I think with the amount of people that creating dashboards, so it's 47 in compared to 75 people, I will guess that it's not only the analyst who creating the dashboard. So there is other people who have their hands in there.
I mean, it's also kind of like the promise, right? That you get like data is the new oil, etc. I mean, it's not new anymore, but essentially like, okay, just let everyone be working with data and everything will be great. And then you find out, well, it's not so easy. And rolling out a self-service without a certain data culture then can create also problems like that.
So if you're putting it, do you agree with this clarity statement that we have here?
Governance process. Dashboards. Yes, I would agree.
Is it narrow enough or should we close it a little bit more? Because I feel that it's a bit wide.
What I'm asking myself is like, so you can see the the pain is definitely like from the stakeholder side, right? What was the trigger? The trigger was that the person, it seems like it was a very high employee of the company because needed to go to a board meeting and needed some numbers quickly. So, and probably wants to see some improvement, like also very quickly for the purposes, right? And which means that when we also focus like on the process itself, there needs to be like some quick win that you can see, okay, we're getting back on track and we understand it and can basically also in a quite short amount of time, like deliver some measurable results. That's what I would expect also from.
But the point, I think that also they had 15 dashboards, it blew up to 300. I will argue maybe that in our clarity statement, we clarified into one dashboard, and then they can leave the rest of the mess around, like a core KPI dashboard.
Yeah, I like that.
And then how we arriving there.
Yes.
Any concerns, constraints? Should we assume anything to be able to solve this problem?
I can't think of anything else at the moment. Probably comes up then when we think about it. So because, yeah.
Cool. I will
Makes sense.
invite also the listeners to pause now, take 15 minutes, pick up a paper and writing, or try to solve it together with us. And we're going to see you in just a few seconds for you. And for us, it's going to be 15 minutes.
Nice. See you.
See you. We are back. Hey, how was it?
It was very, very interesting and nice. Yes. Seems like we're gonna get into details of it, of course, in a minute. It was nice, definitely like thinking about it and warming up like the brain muscles about that challenge.
You know, I think that I haven't dealt with this problem for a while now. And I was like, yeah, I know how to solve it. But I needed to take like 2 or 3 minutes to organize my thoughts and try to do something. I hope I managed to write everything down. I still have a lot of ideas. And you know, one of the things I'm realizing lately is that even in these 15 minutes afterwards, I'm keep thinking about it. So maybe more going to come.
Yeah, it's just the activator, right, for all of that. So it's you need to first warm up, and then also, of course, like very important, we are following up on the experiences, the conversations that we had in our past, right? So it might be very different for any other organization, and like I had a lot of like people just visiting me in my head now from my past experience, and all of this just came back screaming back to me right now, and that's just interesting. But this also, of course, like leads like to the solution space that you have like on your own, right? That's very much based also on your own experiences of the past.
Yeah, many times.
Exactly.
Would you like to start the 5 minutes presentation?
Nice, thanks. I kept thinking about it, and like if I would like sometimes you want to start with something, you would just want to make everything right from the very beginning, right? You want to fix everything and but that's rarely the case because the situation is complex, obviously, and I think it's important to focus on reestablishing trust in data here, which means for me that it's very important from the very beginning to first identify with the stakeholders together, like what is the most relevant data for their daily decision making, what data just needs to be trustworthy. It doesn't matter at the stage really whether this is actually like truly the most relevant data for the business, because you want to reestablish trust and build a relationship with them. We're just going to listen with them and just take those KPIs and accept them as it is. You can challenge later. I think I just want like to pinpoint this here because this is a very important step, because this then gets you into going. If you start like challenging from there, from the very beginning, trying to find everything, you're not going to solve anything, and people are just going to get frustrated down the line because they then also might feel like they are doing a bad job and you're not moving anything. Just listen, take those KPIs and take them as it is now. You can fix this later, right? Then when you have done this, you define the KPIs and you establish the right source of data. When you have done this, it's time also to identify some data owners and talk to them, and also make clear, of course, like that you need to have a common understanding when you change something along this process, like that affects like data that is then presented to the board, that this has high stakes. Which means like that people are aware, okay, when we are making changes to our tech and on our code, for example, that can then have impact on this and this KPI, they need to make sure, okay, then we need to communicate and we need to align them. You might need like some kind of group that then meets, discusses that, whether you actually want to deploy this change or not. So you need to have this awareness then around, so that you are working on this as a team and that you're not basically surprised and just shut from behind, right? In the end, I think it makes sense like to have like the common KPI layer or data layer approach, that you have like a raw data layer where you have everything as is right now. So I would not just throw everything out. I would pretty much like keep what is and just try to get the best out of it at this stage, right? If you have like some raw layer, that's great, but you might want to restrict access there so that only data engineers can access this and do whatever is needed. Then same for the station layer where you do some pre-processing already, right? This is all tech related and only data engineers should have access to this, because when you export this also the self-service part, then people might be pulling data where they don't know like how like the context of the data, and this might then lead also like to wrongly presented data in dashboards. And then you have some analytics layer where you have like some data analysts that have access to this, and maybe some data stewards. And then I was thinking about like whether this is like some gaming studio now. So I thought like, okay, they also need a cool name for the final layer, and they just called it boss KPI layer, so that people understand, okay, this is like very serious here, right? And this is where then decision makers can have access to it. And like whatever ends up in this layer needs to go through some deployment process, which means like it needs to be discussed and agreed on and signed off. This is now how we go. So which means, of course, we're like slower in making changes there, but you're also protecting them a bit more, which then leads to less questions and less like emails. Hey, I don't know, like what's happening to this KPI? We are having like an instant meeting right now, and you're just trying to find now the data owner who caused all of this. And you don't want to be in those escalating meetings, which means that you want to be very clear and very thorough that whatever ends up there is agreed on and signed off by many people, so that people understand what is happening there. Next steps then would be like when we have re-established trust, you can actually change the KPIs that are there. You can also change whether self-service is the right path for the company. But there, I would say like you end up at least in a space where you can then breathe again and get into the acting mode, right? So the basic fire is being diminished, and you can then move on. That's how I would go about it.
You know, you said few things that I really liked. So trust in data, it's got lost. Frankly, people don't really appreciate it. And I think this is a very important thing to emphasize. Also, the restrict access, which I love. I'm advocating for it as well most of the time, because I think that it doesn't make sense that everybody have access to everything. You need to, at some point, say people should not have access to. And then also to evaluate the self-service, which I think a lot of organizations jumping into this boat quite quickly, right? They want to be self-service, data-driven, but the results are actually the opposite. And we see it here quite clearly, from 15 dashboards moving to 300, most of them being created in a period of 6 months. For me, it's screaming, maybe self-service is not yet the right thing for you. In my solution, was basically what I was thinking about, because I realized one thing when we discussed about the problem is that most likely we're going to have some constraints and some concerns. And the first concern that I have was that people feel attached to the dashboards, right? Most likely whoever created it will have some emotions towards it. It's the correct numbers or not. We saw that there is a fight there that was already mentioned between Christian and the colleagues. And this is something that we need to think about. Then also about the fact that there is no definition for true sources. There was no mentioning about it, how they actually build these dashboards and who decides what sources of data they're using. And for a gaming studio, if you think about it, there could be, for example, if they even doing conversion of paid users versus registered users and so on, each of these conversion can be defined in a different way. And how do you define actually the right metrics now to take from the event and translate it? And where's the ability to decide? This is also some question that we need to answer. Who is able to say this is the right true source or not? And from the constraints perspective, user habits, because you already now gave them the ability to do self-service analytics, going backwards may backlash on them. And I think this is the human component that needs to be taken into consideration. And then, of course, budget and resources. Do you actually have the budget now to clean up these 300 dashboards? What it's actually going to cost you? Clarify what is important and what not. And it could be also the case here with 300 dashboards. Nobody knows what is inside there. So this is, again, something that we need to think about. It's not only how much it costs me to store it, it's also how much it costs me actually to put people on it and fix it when they cannot do other stuff. So their initiatives are being stacked. And I try to create some flow of my thoughts, and I said like, okay, I don't want to fight basically all the existing dashboard, but rather I want to define one KPI, as we discussed about it, like a core KPI, and we evaluate the business, then define the true sources. This is the sources that flying into it. This is how we're solving basically two of the main problems, because now we know these are KPIs that are important for us. This is how they're being measured. And we know also where they're coming from. We're clarifying this part for the organization. Then create a dedicated folder in Tableau with read on, right? So everybody can read it, but write is limited, and creating another folder on the level of a team and then just throw inside it all their dashboards. This is very similar to the way that you were thinking about, right? So limiting the access. I didn't talk about the raw data here, which I think it's what I was missing. And then from there, basically what I'm saying, after we have this folder, we're adding the dashboard inside it. So this is the agreed dashboard, KPIs, true sources we know, and we're adding any other relevant dashboard that we approve. We're saying out of these 300, we think that these 15 are the correct ones. We move them inside there. We put it inside this folder. We're moving to create guidelines. Basically, how do we add the dashboard? How do we change the dashboard? How we remove a dashboard? So this is kind of like retention policy.
Yes.
When do we remove something or when we question it? And allowing a freestyle area for testing. So whenever we do a change, have an area where we can test it before it's going into this environment, into this safe environment. And then, of course, use official dashboard. This is to enforce the narrative of this is the true data and take it into basically team meetings, studio meetings, wherever we go to have these numbers and keep showing them, because it's also going to force people to start believing in it. And I think this is, again, something that we need to answer and supervise how we're doing it best.
Yes, I love that.
And in the quick wins here, I'm going to do it quickly. Pick the dashboards you trust and mark them as official. This is the easiest, quickest things to do. And then move the dashboard that you don't fit into a separate folder. I think they both going together with each other. And the other stuff is a little bit more long-term, like dashboard lifecycle management and everything that we covered in the architecture discussion.
Yes, I do love the official dashboard part, because I've also been like in numerous meetings, like when you present some numbers and then somebody else just comes with another dashboard that you've never seen. Numbers look completely different. And yes, and the other parts like create guidelines to add and change and move dashboard, which essentially, when you have like self-service, like in tech, you have the answer is already there, right? So in tech, you would have some kind of deployment process before you actually give something to the users. You would do something to avoid like any bad surprises, right? And when self-service analytics, you don't necessarily have this because everybody can do whatever they want, which means like when you have like, you think about also like DevOps space, like when you take like basic principles from there, how you deploy things to the open so that other people can use it, I think you can gain a lot of momentum there also. I still remember like in the Phoenix project, right? There's like this one part where then people suddenly have like to bring in like handwritten notes when they want to make deployment changes. And it completely like slows the deployment process first down, but then it reestablishes this like on better principles. And this is just nice because people just don't need to be busy, but they need to add value to it, right?
I don't remember the name of the tech company that the CEO got tired of having separate numbers. And what he did, he forced everybody to come with notebooks and calculate themselves the KPIs. I thought it's a little bit of a punishment and a very bad thing to do to the employees and to make them suffer. But at the other side, the upside of it was that people realized how complex data is. And it's not just, I'm going to come with a number and I'm going to throw it. I think this is something that is really, really working well at the end of the day.
Yes.
We don't do it that often, showing people the pain of, while in tech, it's really easy. Just throw it inside Tableau, drag some stuff, and here you go, you have a dashboard. When you need to do it on a paper, things are getting different, right? And then you need to rethink about how you're solving it.
Yes. We have we have done something similar. We had like a pen paper data workshop in one company where I worked in. So where we also, like we imagined like that we're in the 50s now, and they had like all of this data needed now to come up with some kind of solution to process this and build the KPIs, that tons of requests like coming in. They needed to prioritize them also, and it just makes you think again like how to focus on what's actually relevant, right? Because I think this is like when everything gets easy, like a lot of stuff is being done that is not relevant for the business again. When you see this constraint coming in, then you suddenly start thinking, okay, what is actually that I need to focus on? And that's what I like about this approach also, yeah.
So I think we both have our brainstorming area. Now it's time to close slowly the funnel and move into the key insights. Would you start your 2 minutes to present what your 3 insights?
Yes. So I have two. One part, and I think they go in hand in hand. First thing is like reestablish trust in data. And does not only mean like data in itself, but in the people also that are governing all of that and building the process, right? This is, I think, the first thing I cannot emphasize enough. It's important for data teams to have a good relationship to the people that you work with, and also that are your biggest stakeholders, because they then also can protect you when things are getting shitty, right? The other part is avoid clutter. whatever you can do to avoid like many things being thrown out to the open for many people, you should do this because it takes a lot of effort then also to cleaning up again. And it's a continuous effort. We've been talking about like also having kids at home. It is a continuous effort, but you need to do it. It's just part of reality, right? And you need to have strong processes in place there to do that. In terms of action items, I think first thing is definitely like defining like those core and boss KPIs. Find the people who can help you with this and get all of the definitions done. Then bring them to one dashboard and always pinpoint people to that dashboard again when people are using it, when need to use it. And then next step, like start to establish like a governance process for deployment and access to data in the company. So then you need to build the strategy overall. But as I've said also earlier, like when you have like this quick win, you have more space also then to do that. And I think this is just important to keep in mind. You cannot fix it all. You need to think about the early game and the late game, right? Reverting back to the gaming theory now. Also, like, I don't know, when I've been playing Age of Empires, and two, like, first you need to go through the Dark Age. That's just part of it. And then when you want to win the late game, then also need to adapt your strategy at some point there when you go to the Imperial Age, right?
I think that we both more or less arrive to the same conclusion. Allow me to also share basically what I said. Trust is the key. If people don't trust the data, it causes overheads and paralyzed in decisions sometimes company can't afford. And let's face it, I've been to companies that they were spending a lot of hours on QAing the data, the people that received it. And sometimes it was 2 to 4 hours a day. Instead of doing marketing job, they were actually analyzing and checking their data. This is not something that we want to have. Trust is the key. When you give freedom, I think this is one thing that I would like to emphasize again. And you give it without boundaries, you create more chaos because you just gave a tool and people can start doing whatever they want. Freedom is good, but it also needs to have some boundaries inside it to make sure that we don't get out of it. It's very much close to the avoid clutter that you mentioned before. There must be some official KPIs to keep showing up. This is basically, we need to keep repeating numbers. So people going to look at their numbers and say, hold on, in the management meeting or in the company all hands, they presented that we have this amount of installs. How could it be that we're showing different number? And actually cause them to start thinking about it and maybe even align it. From action perspective, pick the dashboard you trust, mark them as official. I think this is one of the key actions to take away from here. Use the official dashboard in Team Studio meetings, again, connected to each other, and then create a guideline to add changes or remove dashboard. So this is, again, creating these boundaries and order inside the chaos. You cannot eliminate chaos, but at least you can try to control as much as possible or ride this in a structured way. And I remember that I saw one Michelin star saying that if you're going to go into the kitchen, you're going to hear everything is silent. It's a complete chaos, but people are in silent because they're focusing on trying to move forward inside this chaotic serving. And that's the same thing here. It's going to be always chaotic. So we need to figure out how we can move and not break anything on the way.
Right. Yes, I remember also, of course, like the cooking part. So I should have also seen the first icebreaker, the second icebreaker question I think that you asked. Like, I should have seen it coming, right? Yes, I mean my creative outlet is music, right? And like one of the the biggest producer like out there is like the Rick Rubin, right? Who has like done all of the great records of System of a Down, Red Hot Chili Peppers, etc. And he also always like referred to himself like also as some kind of reducer. So he's not producing something, but reducing something. Like get to what actually is it that it matters, right? And this is also like some kind of ingrained here, like when I now use my language of music, like or like in the production there, like how you can get to excellence.
This is interesting transition now. We talked about music, we talked about food. Now we need to actually figure out if we manage to get a breakthrough in the problem. We have 3 options. It's 9, yeah, or maybe.
Okay, so it's definitely not no, this I can say. I think it's definitely like a step in the right direction. I would be sitting with I would actually say it's more a yes than a maybe, because I know that this works, but again, it very much depends also then on the company itself and the actors in play there, and the budget part, and that you bring in, the resources available. So there are also still like some question marks around that, but if you have the mandate to do that, I think this will work for the company and everybody will be also be investing in their mental health. So you cannot, I think this is also important to just say, like, when you have like trustworthy data, you will live a happier life.
I think that it's really about mandate, right? It's if you don't get the mandate and you don't have the ability to actually influence, it's not going to really work. And it's just going to go back into chaos after a few weeks, after you organizing it, and then it's going back to the same place.
All good.
From my perspective, I would say it's a maybe solution, also towards yes, but more towards the maybe. And I think that the key component when we discussing this is what is the people feeling about losing the access that they have today to the data. And I think that this is the key component here that need to be clarified. And the company will need to find the right balance for them also, giving them a lot of access or not giving the access, or how they giving the access without damaging the official numbers. And this is why I still on the maybe we're going there, maybe not sure yet. And also I think there is another open question in here that for me is not yet answered. While we have a solution, we know where we need to go towards, is what is actually the need of the organization. Do they actually need a dashboard at all as a core, or do they still working in a silo structure, which also I think needs to have some considerations at the end of the day also.
Yeah, agreed. Yes, I've seen also this, like this part of when people are losing access to data, then suddenly they will start opening up Excel again and collect whatever they have, and then you are actually in a worse position than you were.
You're basically losing control because people are just downloading data and sending out Excel sheets that sometimes even wrong completely with what they're showing up there. We are segmenting to our last funnel of today. Out of the insights that we have, we should agree on up to 6 insights from these episodes to take away. And I already can say that I would like to take the reestablish trust in data. I think this is one of the key insights that we need to keep here, and how we're doing it. And then
for me, it's also the freedom part, because this is just something that one in data space also needs to be aware of. Like, when people can do more, they will also do more. And it's also good to have, it's always great to empower, but without boundaries, you are just letting everything loose and you're losing control. And you need to balance this out.
Yeah. And any third insight we would like to take out of this episode? Avoid cluttered. I would like to have this one as well. What do you think?
It's always like one of the basic things also when people are creating like visualizations, I always also tell them, think about like what you really need to show, because the more you show also, the more questions you get, and you might be getting away from the decision. And always a fan of avoiding clutter.
I agree. And key actions, if we need to recommend what to do in the next 90 days.
I think the first part is to go back in time for the company and narrow down the focus again on those KPIs. So as we said, also like whether it's some workshop or what some other format, like defining those KPIs and data that matters first. And I think that's the first logical step, because it also gets everyone in the room, and talk to each other. And that's the first thing that I would do. And if you miss this step also, I don't think that you can win at all.
We're putting as the first action, define core boss KPIs. So we have it in place.
Yes.
I didn't put it in here, but when we had the brainstorming, I said about the quick wins, the peak dashboard you trust, and mark them as an official. I would love to add it as well.
Agreed.
Any third action we can place that is worth mentioning in here?
Govern the access to data. Yeah, both the deployment and access to data, I think, it's something that you need to tackle. And you need to tackle it like from a process perspective, because you cannot just run after people. You just are going to be mad. You need to solve this from a process, and something that then basically is taking care of it, like more or less, like also more on its own. It's getting ingrained in the culture of the.
I agree. We have 3 insights, 3 actions. I think that with this, per listen can start working and do something, achieve something in 90 days. Any open questions that come to your mind now, or follow-up topics?
I think you started writing there already for the open question. I think this is, again, it's important to say, right? When people are losing access to data or to their favorite tools, you need to have some kind of answers for them, so that that they're advocating what you're doing, right? Because you need to be aware also when that there are emotions attached to the current process that they have, and people might just love us to throw things out there and share it. You need to be very aware of like what role they also play in the company, and are they people that then also might be working against the proposed solution, because you need to bring them on board and you need then to convince them that this is the right path to go.
Internal politics.
Nobody likes it, but it's there. It's part of reality. And especially also as data leads, I mean, I think this is again like an important part. Like when we think about data, we always think about like, okay, we want to make the best decision, and this always, of course, involves like numbers, because we want to have it like very logical and just look at the numbers and then see like what's the right decision. But emotions and politics always play a role. And if you miss this as data person, you're missing a key ingredient. So I can just stress like pay attention to this, because otherwise you might be even at some point, and even though you just wanted the best for the company, obviously.
Always.
Because emotions are not only just emotions, they're also information. They're giving us something to a decision, which means also information is essentially data. And I think it's important to think about like how we can actually get this information into the decision-making process without being weird and just asking like people all the time, like how do they feel about the decision, etc. We need to have like some kind of, how do you create a data culture that you can incorporate this into the decision-making process? This is what I'm most interested in.
About setting up the right environment for the people to use it. And with that, I think we will wrap this episode. Would you like to share with the audience where they can find you?
Yeah, for sure. You can always find me on LinkedIn, obviously. Like my name is Klug. You can just message me, and I'm always happy to connect and share. And other thing that I would like to share is also I'm playing in a band. I'm wearing a shirt right now. So the band's name is called Kroa Heller. And we are going to release a new album later this fall. If you also just don't want to me talking about like data, but also are interested in listening to some music, yes, I'm happy to. You can find us on Spotify and just check us out.
I would like to ask you one last question before we go. Can you recommend a good book you have read lately?
Yes. Okay. A book that I keep. I will make two suggestions. One part is like I'm reading The Creative Act by Rick Rubin. I've mentioned also the producer, so it just gives you like it's just like I don't know, like 100 chapters or whatever, and thought patterns. It just makes you think. You're not going to read the entire book like in one sitting, but you're just going to read like one chapter and then think about it. And for me, being like a creative person, this is this helps me also like on the job, because it sharpens like the senses, right? And thinking about like what's actually happening right now and getting this clarity. Another book that I will also recommend, like on my live page to people, is like Storytime with Data by Cole Nussbaumer, because this is just a beautiful book to think about like what are we actually talking about, like how to think about like the decision, the action items, the information that you want to come across, and this will always help you like in communication with in your organization and in your company to truly hit the spot and have also then more meaningful relationships and with the people that you work with.
Christian, I really appreciate the time, and I really enjoyed our time together. I think we had a very nice brainstorming session.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lior, for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on another Data Breakthroughs session. If you enjoyed watching us tackle this problem, we would love to solve yours next. Head to the link in the show notes to submit your data challenge. You could be featured in an upcoming episode. If you're a data professional who wants to join me in the problem-solving hot seat, there is a guest form too. Thanks for listening, and I will see you in the next breakthrough. Bye-bye.